From the first moment I met my sister-in-law, Emily, I felt an immediate dislike. She entered our family in a discreet, almost shy way, and that irritated me deeply. John, my brother, always had impeccable taste, and I couldn't understand how he, with his promising career and undeniable charm, could choose someone so dull. Emily, with her simple clothes and modest manner, seemed a shadow in contrast to my exuberant radiance. At family gatherings, my disdain for Emily was evident. I made a point of highlighting my professional achievements and luxurious lifestyle, while she remained silent, with a shy smile on her face. This only increased my irritation. How could she be content with so little? I, who always strived to be the best at everything, saw in Emily an example of a lack of ambition that disgusted me. The small, everyday interactions only reinforced my contempt. While I talked about my international travels and dinners at renowned restaurants, Emily talked about her daily tasks, simple work, and home life. I couldn't help but snide comments about his lack of ambition, disguised as well-intentioned advice. My superiority was evident, and I felt victorious when I noticed his discomfort. What bothered me most was the way John defended her. He always highlighted Emily's qualities, her kindness, her patience, and her generous heart. I saw this as a way for him to justify his choice, and it made me even more determined to show that Emily was not worthy of being part of our family. For me, she was just a stone on the path to perfection that I so longed for. At social events, I made an effort to highlight the differences between us. While I wore designer dresses and expensive jewelry, Emily was content with simple clothes, often made by herself. I loved the guests' surprised expressions when they compared our appearances. I made a point of giving our nephews the best toys, knowing that Emily couldn't compete. It was a cruel game, but I felt in control. I remember one Christmas in particular where my need to humiliate Emily reached its peak. I had thrown a stunning party at my house, with extravagant decorations and a Christmas tree filled with expensive gifts. Emily arrived with a box of homemade cookies, a simple and sweet gesture that I turned into a joke. The embarrassment on his face was visible, and I felt triumphant. At every family meeting, my strategy was the same. I took every opportunity to show my superiority, whether through expensive gifts or subtle comments. Emily, on the other hand, responded with a dignity I couldn't understand. His patience and kindness, far from moving me, irritated me even more. To me, his attitude was a way of accepting mediocrity, something I could never do. Deep down, my dislike of Emily was a reflection of my own insecurities. I had built my identity around success and luxury, and Emily's presence, with her simplicity and humility, threatened to shatter that image. I constantly needed to reassert my superiority to feel valid, and Emily became the perfect target for my frustrations. Every family gathering was an opportunity for me to highlight my superiority in a subtle but effective way. I looked forward to these occasions, planning every comment and every gesture so that everything seemed natural yet calculated. When Emily arrived in her simple clothes, I didn't miss the chance to make observations about the latest fashion trends that I, of course, was wearing. "This blouse is from the new Prada collection. You must like it," I said, knowing that Emily could hardly afford something like that. The gifts I gave to my nephews were also part of my strategy. I chose the most expensive and sophisticated toys, while Emily offered handmade gifts or modest items. When opening the gifts, I watched with satisfaction the contrast between the children's joy upon receiving my gifts and their disappointment upon unwrapping theirs. I made a point of praising my own generosity out loud, while Emily remained silent, trying to hide her discomfort. In conversations, I always found a way to insert indirect comparisons. If someone mentioned travel or cultural experiences, I would talk about my adventures in Paris or New York, highlighting how much I learned and grew from those experiences. Then he would ask Emily about her hobbies, knowing that her life was more domestic and less glamorous. "And you, Emily, what are you doing interesting?" The seemingly innocent question was actually a trap to highlight our differences. During dinners, I was careful to make my professional success stories stand out. He talked about promotions, new projects, and the compliments he received at work. When Emily mentioned something about her simple job, I would smirk and change the subject, as if what she did was irrelevant. "I'm glad you're pleased, Emily. I, on the other hand, am working on something really big. My sense of victory was strengthened as I saw Emily's eyes fill with discomfort. She tried to maintain her composure, but it was clear that my words were affecting her. This discomfort fueled me, gave me the feeling of control and power that I so desired. It was as if I was constantly reaffirming my position of superiority, while she struggled not to show her pain. At larger family events, I would plan my grand entrance. I arrived late on purpose, ensuring that everyone noticed my arrival. "Sorry I'm late. I was in an important meeting," I said, while Emily, always punctual and discreet, watched in silence. My every gesture was designed to contrast with his simplicity, to highlight my grandeur in the face of his modesty. For a family birthday, I brought a cake ordered from a famous bakery, while Emily prepared a homemade cake. I made a point of praising the pastry shop, describing in detail the fine ingredients and the chef's skill. "Emily, your cake looks delicious too," I said, with a tone that made my condescension clear. The difference in treatment was clear, and I reveled in it. With each event, my strategy became more refined. I watched Emily's reactions, adjusting my comments and gestures to maximize her discomfort. It was a cruel game, but it gave me a feeling of power that I couldn't find anywhere else. As Emily tried to maintain her dignity, I felt increasingly victorious, convinced that my superiority was unquestionable. At Christmas that year, I decided to take my humiliation tactics to a new level. From an early age, I planned every detail to ensure that my superiority was undeniable. I spent weeks choosing the most expensive and sophisticated gifts for the family, luxurious objects that I knew Emily could never match. When the day arrived, I dressed in my best designer attire, an exclusive piece from the latest Gucci collection, complemented by sparkling jewelry and a very expensive perfume. As I entered my parents' house, I noticed that all eyes were on me. The extravagant decoration, the Christmas tree full of expensive decorations, and the exuberant gifts highlighted my presence. Emily, with her simple dress and shy smile, seemed out of place in the ostentatious surroundings. While she helped prepare supper, I circulated around the space, accepting compliments and distributing superior smiles. When it came time to open the presents, the difference between our worlds became even more evident. The children opened my gifts with screams of joy, enchanted by the expensive and sophisticated toys. Emily, who had opted for handmade gifts, remained silent, watching the scene with a look of resignation. I made a point of highlighting the origin of my gifts, describing the exclusive stores from which I had purchased them. "I brought these from my last trip to Paris," I said, with a tone that made clear my intention to impress. During dinner, the conversation revolved around my achievements and adventures. I reported details of my travels, dinners at five-star restaurants, and social events I attended. Emily, sitting next to John, listened silently, contributing little to the conversation. When she tried to participate, I would interrupt her with grander stories, ensuring my voice was the most heard. This reminds me of when I was in New York for a conference. It began, shifting the focus to me. While others laughed and commented on my stories, I watched Emily sideways. The embarrassment on his face was visible, and I fed off it. With every forced smile, with every disconcerted look, I felt a sense of triumph. It was as if her every gesture of discomfort reaffirmed my superiority. I was at the top, and nothing could change that. At the end of the night, as everyone was getting ready to leave, I noticed Emily approaching me. With a shy smile, she thanked me for the gifts and the moments shared. There was a sincerity in his eyes that bothered me, a kindness I couldn't understand. "Thank you, Sarah. It was a wonderful night," she said, before walking away to help clean up the kitchen. His humility contrasted sharply with my arrogance, but I didn't allow that to shake my sense of victory. Back in my luxurious apartment, I reflected on the night. I felt victorious, but there was an emptiness that I couldn't explain. My obsession with humiliating Emily gave me a sense of power, but at the same time, I began to realize that perhaps there was something more to life that I was ignoring. However, in that moment, I chose to ignore those thoughts. For me, what mattered was that, once again, I had shown everyone who was at the top. That night, I fell asleep with a satisfied smile, convinced that my superiority was intact. Little did I know that fate had different plans, and that would be one of the last nights I would feel this way. Life, with its unexpected twists and turns, would soon show me that true greatness is not measured by material achievements, but by the heart and soul of each person. Months after Christmas, my life, which I thought was perfect, began to fall apart. I started to feel strange pains and fatigue that didn't fit with my active lifestyle. I was reluctant to see a doctor, thinking it was just stress from work. However, when the symptoms became unbearable, I decided to make an appointment. At the office, the doctor ran some tests and, upon receiving the results, his face turned into a serious expression. He asked me to sit down and, in a serious tone of voice, explained that I had cancer. The word resonated in my mind like a death blow. Suddenly, my entire luxurious world full of achievements lost its meaning. My heart raced, and fear began to take over me. When leaving the office, my body seemed to work on automatic. I walked to my car, not really seeing the way. All I could think about was the illness that now dominated my life. When I got home, I sat down on the couch and started crying. The tears were a mix of fear, despair, and a deep sense of helplessness. I, who had always prided myself on controlling everything around me, was now at the mercy of something I couldn't control. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and doctor appointments. The doctor's words mixed in my mind: chemotherapy, surgeries, chances of survival. It all felt like a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. My routine, previously full of social events and important meetings, was now limited to hospitals and painful treatments. The life I had built with so much effort was crumbling before my eyes. The family's support was immediate, but what surprised me most was Emily's constant presence. I expected her to pull away, considering how I had treated her. Yet she was there, by John's side, offering help and words of comfort. At first, I was reluctant to accept his presence, but I didn't have the strength to refuse. Fear and uncertainty had made me vulnerable, and I needed all the support I could get. My home, once a symbol of luxury and success, now felt like a battlefield. The treatments left me weak and debilitated. The mirrors reflected an image I barely recognized: a pale, dull woman struggling to survive. Every day was a battle, and my material possessions, which were once so important, now meant nothing. What was the point of having a wardrobe full of expensive clothes if I wasn't healthy enough to wear them? Amidst the chaos, I began to realize that my life needed something more than superficial achievements. Emily's visits, her patience and kindness, began to touch me in ways I hadn't expected. She brought home cooked food, helped with cleaning the house, and most importantly, was there to listen to me. There was a kindness about her that contrasted with the coldness of my world of appearances. For the first time, I began to see Emily as a real person and not just my brother's simple wife. As the days turned into weeks, the fear of the future continued to haunt me. Each exam, each medical appointment was a new mountain to climb. I clung to any sign of hope, but the path was uncertain. Through it all, Emily's presence became a beacon of light. Your strength and resilience inspired me to keep fighting, even when everything seemed lost. She taught me that true wealth is not in material possessions, but in the human connections and love we share. At that moment, I didn't know what the outcome of my fight against cancer would be. But one thing was certain: life had given me a second chance to reevaluate my priorities. And ironically, the person I despised the most was becoming my greatest source of support and inspiration. The journey was just beginning, and I was learning, the hard way, that humility and compassion are the true measures of greatness. When I was admitted for the first tests and treatments, I didn't know what to expect from my family. My relationship with them, especially Emily, had been marked by my arrogance and need for superiority. Deep down, I hoped they would keep their distance, perhaps even with a touch of revenge. After all, I deserved it, didn't I? But the reality I found in the hospital was completely different. John and Emily were the first to arrive, well before the other family members. John, with his expression of genuine concern, held my other hand, trying to comfort me. But what really surprised me was Emily's attitude. There was no revenge in his eyes, not even a trace of satisfaction. What I saw was pure compassion and empathy. She approached the bed and, with a delicate gesture, held my hand. "Lily, we're here for you," she said, her voice soft and firm. "I promise I won't leave your side no matter what." These words, simple and sincere, completely disarmed me. I felt tears start to roll down my face, a mixture of relief and embarrassment. How could she be so kind? After everything I had done, I couldn't understand it, but at that moment, I desperately needed that support. As the days turned into weeks, John and Emily's presence at the hospital became constant. Emily, with her infinite patience, took on a caregiving role that I never imagined she could play. She brought home-cooked meals, helped organize my medications, and spent hours by my side, just talking or reading in silence. That unconditional support was something I never expected to receive, especially from someone I had treated with such contempt. The reaction from other family members was also supportive, but there was something special about Emily's dedication. It was as if she was determined to show me that despite my flaws and arrogance, I still deserved to be cared for and loved. Her every gesture was a lesson in humility and compassion, something I had never truly appreciated until then. My emotional transformation began to be reflected in the way I saw Emily. Before, I considered her arrival a threat to my self-image. Now she became an example of everything I needed to learn. Her ability to forgive and care was inspiring. There was an inner strength in her that I had never noticed, a resilience that challenged my own perception of strength and success. During the most difficult moments of treatment, when pain and despair threatened to overwhelm me, it was Emily's presence that gave me the strength to continue. His promise to be by my side was not just a phrase spoken in a moment of compassion. It was a real commitment, lived every day. She was there to hold my hand during chemotherapy sessions, to wipe my tears, and to encourage me when I felt like giving up. Each day, my gratitude for Emily grew. I began to see her as a sister, someone who truly cared about me, regardless of my past. I felt ashamed for all the years of humiliation I put her through, but Emily never brought it up. For her, the present was what mattered, and she was determined to make my days as bearable as possible. It was in this supportive and compassionate environment that I began to understand the true meaning of family. It wasn't just about blood ties or superficial relationships based on appearances. It was about being there for each other in the most difficult times, offering love and forgiveness even when it wasn't deserved. And it was Emily, my unexpected ally, who taught me this lesson in the most powerful way possible. The beginning of treatment was true hell. Chemotherapy left me exhausted and nauseated, while surgeries filled me with fear and uncertainty. The constant pain made every day a struggle. I felt lost and vulnerable, trapped in a body that seemed to betray me at every moment. But in the midst of this torment, Emily was always there, like a silent angel. At the very first chemotherapy session, Emily showed up with a basket of fresh, nutritious food. "I know it won't be easy to eat, but you need to stay strong," she said, as she prepared some hot soup. The comforting aroma made me realize how much I needed that care. Emily was always ready to feed me, both physically and emotionally. During the long hours of treatment, Emily would sit next to me, reading aloud or simply holding my hand. Your constant presence and understanding silence were all I needed. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, scared and in pain, and there would be Emily, ready to comfort me. "I'm here, Lily. You're not alone," she said, with a calmness that soothed me. Surgery days were especially difficult. The fear of the unknown consumed me, but Emily was always there, from the waiting room until the moment I woke up from the anesthesia. His eyes, full of hope and determination, were the first thing I saw when I woke up. She helped me walk again, holding my arm and encouraging me to take each step, even when I felt like I couldn't. The constant pain was a test of endurance. Every movement, every breath was a challenge. But Emily, with her infinite patience, took care of me without ever complaining. She adjusted my pillows, massaged my hands, and helped me find comfortable sleeping positions. His dedication was disconcerting. How could someone be so generous, especially to someone who had treated her so badly? As the treatments progressed, my admiration for Emily grew. His kindness and patience were a constant source of inspiration. I, who had always prided myself on my strength and independence, was now completely dependent on someone I had despised. Emily taught me, every day, the true meaning of strength and resilience. There were times when I wanted to give up. The pain, tiredness, and despair seemed unbearable. But Emily never let me give in. "You're stronger than you think, Lily," she said, holding my hand firmly. His words, spoken with such conviction, gave me the courage to continue. I realized then that his strength came not just from his kindness, but from an unwavering determination to see me overcome this challenge. Emily also took care of the details that I could no longer manage. She organized my medications, kept track of my treatment schedules, and kept my house in order. Every gesture, every act of care, was a constant reminder that I was not alone. Emily was there, helping me carry the burden, sharing the weight of the illness with me. In the midst of that whirlwind of pain and fear, Emily became my safe haven. His presence was a light in the darkness, living proof that love and kindness can emerge in the most unexpected places. And it was through her that I began to understand that true strength is not in the ability to face everything alone, but in the humility of accepting help and love from others. The nights in the hospital were long and silent, a fertile ground for reflection. As the machines around me whirred and the painkillers offered little relief, my mind wandered into painfully familiar territory. I began to revisit the past, my actions, my words, and an avalanche of guilt began to accumulate. Emily, always present, silent, and patient, was a constant reminder of my failures. I remembered every venomous comment, every disdainful look I threw Emily's way. My arrogance, which previously seemed like an impenetrable shield, now revealed itself to be a fragile mask, hiding a heart full of insecurities and fears. I remembered specific moments, like Christmas, when I deliberately made Emily feel inferior. Back then, it gave me a feeling of power, but now, all I felt was shame. I realized that my need to humiliate Emily came from a deep place of insecurity. I, who always sought to be the best in everything, felt threatened by her simplicity and authenticity. His kindness and resilience were qualities that I didn't possess and that, in some ways, I envied. My superiority was a facade, built to hide my own weaknesses and fears. I mentally reviewed all the family gatherings, the extravagant gifts, the subtle comments. Every gesture, every word, were desperate attempts to reaffirm my position. But why? The answer slowly began to emerge. Fear. Fear of not being enough, of not being loved for who I really am. This fear fueled my arrogance and my need to put others down to feel superior. As these revelations emerged, a different pain began to manifest itself, an emotional pain, as intense as the physical. It was painful to realize how much I had hurt Emily and, by extension, my family. They deserved more. They deserved a sister-in-law, who loved and respected them. Emily, in particular, deserved all the love and admiration I ever gave her. One night, as I looked up at the hospital ceiling, I started crying. The tears were a mix of regret and relief. Regret for my past actions, but also relief for finally understanding the origin of my behaviors. I realized that admitting my faults was the first step to redemption, and that maybe, just maybe, there was still time to make things right. Emily continued to take care of me, without ever mentioning the past. His unconditional kindness was a mirror that reflected my imperfections. In his actions, I saw the person I wanted to be, someone capable of forgiving, of loving without reservation. I began to deeply desire to change, to be worthy of the care and patience she offered me. Over the next few nights, in the midst of pain and reflection, I decided I needed to ask for forgiveness. Not just Emily, but my entire family. I needed to recognize my mistakes, my insecurities, and the damage I caused. This decision brought a sense of peace, a light at the end of the dark tunnel I found myself in. The journey of self-reflection was tough but necessary. I understood that healing was not just physical, but also emotional and spiritual. I needed to heal my heart, my relationships, and my soul. And that started with a simple, but powerful, request for forgiveness. I was ready to face this new phase, with the hope of becoming someone better, more humble and more loving. One day, after a particularly painful chemotherapy session, I felt an urgent need to talk to Emily. The days of reflection had weighed on my conscience, and I knew I needed to release the burden I was carrying. Emily was in the kitchen, preparing a light meal for me when I approached, feeling my heart racing. The words were stuck in my throat, but I knew I couldn't delay it any longer. "Emily," I began, my voice shaking. She turned around, her face lit up with a soft smile, but upon seeing my tears, her expression changed to one of concern. I need to talk to you," I continued, feeling emotion take over. "I need to apologize for everything I did." Emily set the spoon aside and came over to me, taking my hands in hers. "Lily, there's no need to," she began, but I cut her off, unable to hold back the tears that were now rolling freely down my face. "No, Emily, I need to say this," I insisted. "I was horrible to you. I humiliated you. I treated you badly for no reason, all because of my own insecurities and fears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything." My words came out in sobs, each one filled with regret and pain. Emily pulled me into a tight hug. I felt his warmth and compassion envelop my fragile body. "Lily, I forgive you," she whispered in my ear. "I truly forgive you. I didn't hold any grudges against you. I just want you to be okay." Those words were like a balm for my wounded soul. The weight I had carried for so long began to lift. I felt profound relief, as if a great burden had been lifted from my shoulders. Emily's acceptance and forgiveness were more than I ever knew I deserved. For the first time, I felt genuinely accepted and loved, not for what I possessed or the image I projected, but for who I was in essence. We held each other for what seemed like an infinite amount of time. My crying turned into soft sobs, and then into a deep calm. Emily continued to hold me, conveying a sense of peace and security that I had never experienced before. It was at that moment that I realized the true depth of his character, his ability to love and forgive without reservation. As we walked away, Emily looked me in the eyes and said, "Lily, you're my sister. That's what family is for. Let's get through this together." His words resonated within me, solidifying the bond that was now forming between us. Those invisible barriers I had erected began to crumble, replaced by a feeling of unity and complicity. Over the next few days, my relationship with Emily changed completely. She was not just a caregiver and a patient. We were two sisters facing an uphill battle together. There was a new lightness to our interactions, a mutual understanding that hadn't existed before. I began to see life with new eyes, valuing the little things and, especially, Emily's invaluable presence by my side. That apology marked the beginning of my transformation. It wasn't just about being forgiven, but about learning to forgive myself, accept my flaws, my vulnerabilities, and find strength in humility and kindness. And most of all, it was about learning to truly love, without conditions, as Emily had shown me. The journey was still long, and the challenges were many, but with Emily by my side, I felt stronger and more prepared to face them. And I knew that no matter what happened, I had found in Emily a true friend and sister, and in myself, the ability to change and grow. The illness brought a new dynamic to our family, something I could never have predicted. John and Emily started coming to my house more often, turning the place into a center of love and support. Before, my home was a symbol of luxury and success, but now, it became a refuge where I felt safe and cared for. Emily and John's constant presence brought a sense of warmth and togetherness that I didn't know I needed. Over time, Emily and I became real friends. We shared confidences and fears during long conversations, often at night, when the house was silent. We talked about our lives, dreams, and regrets. Emily told me about her childhood, her aspirations, and her challenges. In return, I revealed parts of myself that I had kept hidden for so long, parts that I didn't even fully understand. Emily's simplicity and authenticity fascinated me. She had a way of seeing life with a clarity and serenity that I envied. Your resilience in the face of adversity was inspiring, and your unconditional love taught me more about compassion than any other experience in my life. She became the sister I never knew I needed, someone I could trust completely. On the weekends, John, Emily and I would spend hours together. We watched movies, cooked simple meals, and laughed about stories from the past. Their presence brought a lightness and joy that I hadn't felt in a long time. Every moment shared was an opportunity to strengthen our bonds and create new memories. I began to realize the true value of family and love, something I previously took for granted. My house, once a place of ostentation, has become a real home. Emily took care of the small details, filling the room with warmth and comfort. The fresh flowers on the living room table, the nutritious meals, and the loving gestures were constant reminders that I was not alone. She showed me that love was in small acts, in things that cannot be bought or displayed, but felt deeply. Our new family dynamic also impacted John. He seemed happier and more fulfilled, watching the closeness between Emily and I grow. It made him lighter and more present. He helped me with everyday tasks and shared his strength and optimism, becoming an essential pillar in my recovery. Our relationship, which was previously superficial, became deep and sincere. Friends and relatives who visited us noticed the change. They commented on how different my house felt, more welcoming and vibrant. There was a positive energy that emanated from our home, a sense of togetherness and love that was palpable. Emily, with her kindness and empathy, was primarily responsible for this transformation. She brought light into my life, illuminating the dark corners I had avoided for so long. The new family dynamic taught me valuable lessons about humility and gratitude. I learned to value people for who they are, not what they have. I understood that true wealth is in the relationships and love we share. And most of all, I learned that compassion and forgiveness have the power to heal even the deepest wounds. Emily and I, now sisters at heart, faced each day together. She was my rock, my guide, and my dearest friend. The illness, which initially seemed like a curse, turned into a blessing in disguise, bringing our family together in ways I never imagined possible. The journey was still difficult, but with Emily and John by my side, I knew I could face any challenge. As the months went by, my health began to deteriorate significantly. Treatments that initially seemed promising now seemed less effective, and the pain intensified. Every day was a battle to maintain a minimum of energy and hope. The doctors did their best, but the reality of my condition became increasingly difficult to ignore. Despite this, Emily never left my side. Emily was there in every moment of anguish, holding my hand through bouts of pain and comforting me through sleepless nights. His constant presence was a balm for my troubled soul. Even when I was on the verge of despair, she encouraged me to fight, to not lose hope. Your strength and resilience were an endless source of inspiration for me. She refused to let me succumb to fear, insisting that there was still reason to fight. The days became a cycle of treatments, medical visits, and moments of deep reflection. Emily took care of me with a dedication that I could never fully repay. She administered my medications, prepared meals I could barely eat, and adjusted my pillows so I could find some comfort. Their caring gestures were a constant reminder that I was not alone in this fight. There were times when hopelessness threatened to overwhelm me. The pain was relentless, and the future seemed bleak. On sleepless nights, as I stared at the ceiling, Emily would sit next to me, holding my hand and telling me stories to distract me. She talked about the happy days we lived together, the plans we could still make, and the small daily victories. Her soft voice and words of encouragement were an anchor that held me steady in the midst of the storm. The worsening of my health brought a new reality for all of us. John, always present and strong, also felt the weight of the situation. He and Emily took turns making sure I was never alone, coordinating hospital visits and household chores. I saw the concern in his eyes, but I also saw the determination. They were willing to do whatever was necessary to provide me with as much comfort and dignity as possible. With each passing day, my admiration for Emily grew. His ability to find strength in the midst of adversity was unparalleled. Even when I was falling apart, she remained steadfast, a rock I could lean on. Her resilience taught me to face my fears head-on, to find courage in the small things, and to cherish every moment of light in the midst of darkness. In moments when the end seemed imminent, Emily reminded me of all the beautiful things in life. She told me about the importance of each day, no matter how difficult it was. "Lily, you are stronger than you think," she said, her eyes shining with fierce determination. We're going to get through this together." His words were a promise that gave me strength to keep fighting, even when everything seemed lost. The worsening of my health brought to light the true essence of our relationship. Emily was not only my caregiver, but my friend, my sister, and my guardian angel. She taught me the true meaning of unconditional love, compassion, and resilience. Your presence transformed my darkest days into moments of hope and courage. Even though the end was approaching, Emily's strength and unwavering love gave me the peace of mind I needed. I knew that no matter what happened, she would be by my side until the last moment. Your strength and resilience were a beacon that guided me through the darkness, reminding me that even in the worst circumstances, love and compassion can light the way. In the last few weeks of my life, our home became a true sanctuary of peace and love. The realization that my time was running out brought a sense of urgency, but also a depth of feeling that I had never experienced before. The atmosphere was serene, marked by acceptance and affection that surrounded us. John, Emily, and I enjoyed every moment together, trying to make each day meaningful. We spent hours sitting in the living room, remembering happy moments from the past. John told funny stories from our childhood, and we laughed together about the adventures and mischief we shared. Emily, in her sweet way, added her own memories, and together we created a mosaic of memories that comforted us. These conversations became a sacred ritual, a constant reminder of the love and connection we shared. Amidst the laughter and tears, we also talked about the future, their future without me. John and Emily discussed their plans for the children, the dreams they had for them. I listened intently, feeling a mixture of sadness and hope. I knew Emily was more than prepared to take care of John and her nephews. His strength and dedication were unquestionable, and that brought me great comfort. Emily promised me, with the same determination she always showed, that she would take care of John and her nephews. "I'll take care of them like you would, Lily," she said, holding my hand firmly. "They will always have me, and I promise to honor their love and memory every day." His words were a balm to my soul, a relief to my worried heart. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that she would keep her word. Our evenings were filled with quiet conversations and moments of reflection. Emily and I often stayed up late, talking about life, death, and everything in between. She helped me face my fears, accept the inevitability of my destiny, and find peace in the midst of pain. Her wisdom and patience were endless, and I felt blessed to have her by my side. John, in turn, showed a strength I had never seen before. He was torn between taking care of me and continuing to be the dedicated father he always was. His presence was a pillar of support, and together we formed an indestructible team, facing each day with courage and love. Our moments together were precious, and I made a point of telling John how much he meant to me. The house, once a symbol of my material success, was now a true home, filled with love and understanding. Friends and family who visited us noticed the change, commenting on the calm and serenity they felt upon entering. Emily took care of every detail, transforming the space into a place of comfort and welcome. The fresh flowers, the lovingly prepared meals, and the little personal touches made all the difference. I started to prepare for goodbye. I organized my belongings, wrote letters to my nephews, and left messages of love and encouragement for John and Emily. I wanted them to know how much they meant to me, and that my love for them was eternal. Every gesture, every word, was an attempt to leave a piece of me that could comfort them in the difficult days to come. The last few weeks have been a mix of sadness and indescribable beauty. There was a sense of closure, but also of a deep and lasting love. I knew I was leaving behind a strong, united family, thanks to Emily. Her promise to care for John and her nephews was a beacon of hope, ensuring that my legacy of love would continue through her. In the end, as my health rapidly declined, I felt at peace. Emily and John were by my side, holding my hands, their words of love and encouragement whispered in my ears. I knew I wasn't alone, and that despite everything, I had found redemption and true love in the most difficult times of my life. My last day arrived quietly, without dramatic warnings, but with a serenity that reflected the peace I had finally found. The house was calm, enveloped in an atmosphere of love and acceptance. I felt weakness take over my body, but my mind was clear, aware of the moment that was approaching. Emily and John were by my side, as they always had been during the months of battle. Emily held my hand with a gentle firmness, her hands warm against my cold skin. His eyes, full of love and compassion, met mine. Deep in his gaze, I saw something deeper than any words could express: complete forgiveness and unconditional love. The woman I had so despised, who I had treated so cruelly, was there, offering me the greatest gift of all, her presence and her heart. John was on the other side, holding my other hand, his tears falling silently. I felt his love, the pain of losing a sister, but also the strength that always united us. They were both my angels, my guardians in my last moments. In their faces, I saw the reflection of a life full of ups and downs, of mistakes and successes, but, above all, of love and forgiveness. My breathing began to hitch, and I felt the life slowly draining from me. Emily leaned in and whispered words of comfort, promising that she would take care of John and her nephews, that my love would live on through them. Her eyes shone with determination and tenderness, and I knew she would keep her promise. I felt at ease, knowing that my family would be in good hands. With a final sigh, I looked at Emily one last time. I saw in her the embodiment of forgiveness and compassion. I left in peace, knowing that I had found redemption through the woman I had so despised. My journey, marked by arrogance and selfishness, had culminated in a profound learning about the true meaning of love and family. After I left, Emily continued to be the rock of our family. She took on responsibilities with a grace and strength that inspired everyone around her. Emily became not just a supportive figure but a beacon of light, guiding John and his nephews through their grief and helping them find joy and hope again. My story, once marked by arrogance and resentment, was now a powerful reminder of the impact of love and forgiveness. Emily spoke about me not with spite, but with understanding and affection, sharing the lessons we learned together. She would tell me about my transformation, how I found redemption through her kindness, and how it changed our family dynamic forever. Emily, the woman I tried to humiliate, became my guardian angel in life and after my death. She cared for John and her nephews, ensuring they grew up surrounded by love and stability. Her strength and resilience continued to be an inspiration to us all. His ability to forgive and love unconditionally became a lasting lesson in the true essence of compassion. My departure left a void, but it also made space for love to blossom in ways I never imagined. Emily kept my memory alive through her actions and words, transforming our suffering into a celebration of life and love. She showed everyone that even in the darkest circumstances, the light of forgiveness and love can shine brightly. Our family story, now retold with a new perspective, served as a testimony to the transformative power of forgiveness. Emily, with her kindness and patience, taught us that the true meaning of life is not in material achievements, but in human connections and the ability to love without reservation. His legacy, like mine, was a constant reminder that, in the end, love is stronger than any resentment. Emily, my savior and friend, became the pillar upon which our family rebuilt itself. She showed that compassion has the power to heal even the deepest wounds, and that forgiveness is a powerful force that can transform lives. And so, my story, our story, became a celebration of love and redemption, a legacy that will endure forever.